Hello, my fellow CS colleagues, and welcome to another installment of CS Stories on the Knowledge and Nonsense Network. I am Sarah B. Cruz, your local CSS nerd extraordinaire, here to discuss the hard topics in professional development. So, obviously, it's sterile processing week, right? So let's give a big shout out to my real MVPs out there, my sterile processing technicians holding it down on the front line from decon to sterile storage. I want to take this moment to not just recognize you, but acknowledge the fact that I see how hard you are working. I experience the front line with you, and I can't begin to tell you how much I appreciate and interpret the hard work that you guys put in every single day. So this may be sterile processing week, but I'm just celebrating what you guys do every day, right? So let's just give a big shout out for a CS Awesome Daily in a very highlighted week. And that's what's going on. And you guys deserve every single moment of that every day throughout the year. So even though it's sterile processing week, the flops, they don't stop. And I'm coming with you live tonight with a flop that I had during sterile processing week. So one of the responsibilities that I have as the education coordinator in my full-time facility is that we set up in-services. And sterile processing week is the best time to have in-services, especially when you can create the curriculum and hit objectives and even submit those moments. Those in-services can be submitted to the CBSPD and ISHM for CEs. That's right, folks. You can get CEs while working in your facility. Your manager can take advantage of this. You don't have to be an educator to access this on the CBSPD and ISHM program outlines. Typically, it's free for facilities of a healthcare caliber to submit continuing education opportunities for CE approval. But in order to do that, you have to make sure your entire team sees it, right? Obviously, that makes sense. I dropped the ball. I did not record the in-service. I was so disappointed in myself. I did not record the in-service. So second shift couldn't see it, and third shift definitely didn't get to see it. So we're going to try and pick up and make a silver lining out of that. The in-service was just so good. This vendor rep was so diligent in explaining this total need to the team in such a way that felt like such a sincere understanding was happening, that we're going to try and get them back and see if we can recreate the magic for all the other shifts. But I totally dropped the ball on recording it. That's all right. Next time, I'll make sure that it absolutely happens. And this is only my first time ever doing that. So, you know, there's a first time for everything, and why not in sterile processing week? So it's important to bring the flop to the front line because they happen all of the time. And speaking of frontline, I cannot wait to welcome tonight's guest to the show. Tonight's guest began in sterile processing over 20 years ago in the Army, right? Just when you think sterile processing couldn't be anywhere else. That's right, folks. It still has to happen on the front line while in the field during wars and even in times of peace in treacherous areas. The sterile processing has to find a way to persist so that they can be clean, safe surgeries. We are more than just the heart of the hospital at this point in time. But anyways, our guest tonight is a huge advocate for sterile processing on a local and national level, and even an international level. I'm super excited to have him on the show. He is currently the VP of Strategic Initiatives for ISHM, and he's going to bring a ton of strategy to our professional development. We all know with over 20 years of experiences under your belt, you're definitely going to bring something to the table tonight. So with that being said, let's welcome Damien Berg to the show.
Hello, Sarah. How are you?
Hi, Damien. I'm so good. Thanks for joining us tonight.
Thank you. Thank you. And I echo everything you said, and happy Sterile Processing CS Week to all the viewers out there. And, you know, it's amazing that it's another year gone by, and I'm still proud to be in this profession and still as energized as ever I could be. it is an amazing profession, and I'm just glad to be here today to share a little bit of my story with you guys, and hopefully that inspires, but hopefully that also shows you, there is opportunities for everybody, and there's so many opportunities for this profession coming in the future.
Yes, and I love seeing that we're going to hear a lot about how there's different niches in sterile processing just in your own professional journey. I mean, let alone the Army, right? Just when you think sterile processing can't happen outside of the OR or the hospital area, now we're doing it in tents. Let's go. So it just goes to show that there's tons of niches in sterile processing just waiting to be filled, waiting to be highlighted, and needing to be personified by industry professionals. So I think that's super exciting.
It is. And it's one of those things there. And I just had a conversation, I think, with Sharon just this week. It's amazing to see the evolution of my career, but also the evolution of sterile processing, where some things have changed greatly, and there's honestly some things haven't changed, and because they are tried and true and they work really very well. It works. So we can embrace those or improve on them, and it's amazing. But yes, I've done sterile processing from stateside to sand side and everywhere in between.
That's awesome. So we got to know. Here comes the hard question, Damien. Are you ready? There's a main reason why everybody shows up to the show tonight, and it's because we need to know your professional flop.
So I thought about this, and again, everybody has professional flops. Some of them are very small. Some of them could be pretty good doozies. I'm going to actually take us back to a time, 92, 93. Yes, I'm a little old, but that's when I was in the military. I was a private in the Army, and I was a brand new trained private. So I went to school right out of Fort Sam Houston, and shortly after that, I got deployed. And I thought I kind of like a new technician to a new department, and you just get your certification, and you're like, I'm bad. You know what? I'm ready to go. I can take this on. And that's what I thought too. I thought I knew everything. I got out there, and I realized that this was bigger than what I thought I was trained for, bigger than what I thought, but I was too stubborn to ask for help. I was too proud to go, can you show me how to do this? I was too proud to go, I don't know how to do this. And the difference is this was actually in the field in combat medicine, and I was a young medic. This was not sterile processing at this time, but I'll tie it in. And an event happened where a young person got injured, and I was the only medic and the medic on the scene at that time. But I wasn't prepared. I thought I was prepared. I thought I'd learned everything in school. I thought they taught me everything. And this event, it is very emotional and personal for me, because my stubbornness, my not being able to open up and say, I don't know something, I need help, ask for help prior to this event, led to a really unfortunate negative outcome for this soldier. And at that moment, that changed my life. I almost wanted to quit it all and say, I don't want this kind of responsibility on me. I can go do other things that don't take this responsibility when you're dealing with life and death and people's lives in your hands. But I turned that flop. I turned that really negative, bad, dark spot in my life at the young age of 18. And I turned it around and says, what do I learn from this? What can I do? What can I do differently? And what I did is I said, I will never take anything for granted. I will not take education for granted. I will not take the buddy system for granted. I will not take humility for granted. When you don't know something, you need to speak up and say, I don't know. Don't look around your department and go, nobody will see it if I just go ahead and go through the motions. I call it faking the funk. You don't fake it until you make it. That's not in life and death situations like I did in the military, to the sterile processing, which is life and death for what we do to the patients and the family members that we serve. So I took that and I said, okay, I'm going to put myself all into it. So no matter what I do, no matter what career path I go, because honestly at 18, I didn't know I was going to be a sterile processing tech. I sure as heck didn't know I was going to be a manager of sterile processing. And oh my Lord, I could never imagine I'd be VP of strategic initiatives for Isham. It just was not even on my radar. Isham did exist back then, but it wasn't on my radar at all. But I took this knowledge and I said, okay, whatever I do. Now, my career path turned very interesting. So as a young combat medic, that's what I was trained to be in the field. And I got my EMT, got my paramedic, did all that stuff. But then I got assigned to a hospital. And a hospital is not a whole lot of need for combat medics. So they assigned me to general surgery. So I started learning surgery and I started becoming a scrub tech. Part of that training was to also put me into sterile processing. So I learned sterile processing at a young age, which I thought at that time that was the biggest punishment you can do to me, because I'm a bad combat medic. I'm a surgical tech. Why are you putting me in here? And I literally fell in love with it because of the people, because of what we do and how we do things, but also because of that experience I had. Because I didn't know what I didn't know, something very bad happened. And I said I would never let that happen again. So when I got put into sterile processing, it wasn't a punishment, and I didn't act like I knew everything. I embraced the culture of that department and the people in there, knowing that I was a transplant in there. And I said, what do I do? What can I use this time to better myself for? So I started learning everything. And I actually worked as an endoscopy technician in that same hospital. They sent me up with GI scopes. I won't even tell you how we did GI scopes back in the day. It'll clear your hair even more there, Sarah. So it's just, it's one of these experiences. But I took that and I added onto it. And next thing I know, I'm a sterile processing tech at surgery centers. And next thing I know, I got offered an educator job and a team leader job, then a supervisor, manager, director, and it just kept going because I took those same learnings from a very tragic incident and said, never again, and totally invested in myself and the people around me.
And I want to take this moment before we go to commercial break to really recognize Damien for sharing a raw moment, not only in professional development, but in personal development. I think it's easy to disassociate how much professional development relies on personal investment and the need to grow. So we're going to unpack a little bit of all the nuggets of knowledge Damien just gave us when we come back from this short break. Hi, everybody, and thanks for joining us after our short commercial break. Can we take a second to highlight Sharon's Hold Your Form? I am a big fan of Sharon Combs' Hold Your Form book. She sent it to me. It's signed. I love it. The binding is bent from, I'm one of those monsters, and I fold the book back when it's a paper book. I know, probably one of my least admirable qualities, right? But it is truly profound, and it can be very revolutionary when you can take that hard, honest assessment for yourself to decide that I am ready to evolve out of this presentation that I have to achieve where I want to go. So big shout out to Sharon and the Knowledge and Nonsense Network for not only holding their form, but for creating this platform for our conversation this evening. So, Damien, I really related a lot when you said that I was stubborn. And I speak a lot in PRETREAT CSS about how it's absolutely necessary to move past this idea that we are the beacon of all knowledge, that there couldn't possibly be anything more for me to learn because I know all of it. So it begs the question, do I really know everything, or have I just stopped seeking additional input? So I'd really like to ask you to further elaborate, maybe with some actionable steps, because a lot of the people that tune in to PRETREAT CSS are really looking for the how, the actionable steps to create physical indicators of success. So if you could unpack just maybe like a few points, a few physical indicators for how you used initiative to go from stubborn to strategy.
Yeah, maybe I should be the vice president of stubborn initiatives.
I'll be your co-chair.
There you go.
Hang out.
No, absolutely. And that great counterpoint there for me to work off of, Sarah. So everybody has ideas. Everybody has concepts. Everybody has dreams or goals that they want to do. I think they get stuck in the martyrdom of going, how do I initiate that? How do I see that to the next phase and the next level? Mm-hmm. And the simple, easiest answer is again, you gotta take that first step and say, I'm going to do that. But more importantly, besides just taking the first step, that's where strategic comes before initiatives, because you got to have a plan. And I literally write down a plan. And it sounds as old school and as cheesy as all, but I'll type it up. I'll write it on sticky notes. You should see my office. I got sticky notes all over the place. but I write down different concepts and ideas. I get up at 1 in the morning and I grab my phone and I send myself an email because I woke up thinking about something. And I take these concepts, these strategies that I have and said, okay, if I say I want to do this, what are the things that are going to move that needle? What are the things? Because and I don't do them all at once, because what I think a lot of people big mistakes when they want to do a personal change or a professional change is they try to bite off too much.
Yes.
They expand too much, because when something goes wrong, then you don't know which one of those things it was. So what I say is back up a little bit, try one, and go, okay, this does this. And then next, add some more to it. Okay, now I'm moving the needle, add some more. Ooh, that put it back. Okay, maybe I need to rethink this one, maybe not do that one. Pass on that and then add another one. So that's the best way to do it. You take that strategy of I want to get to this, and you have different initiatives, whatever those might be. It's troubleshooting 101 realistically in your world. I mean, we all see it with our car. If your car, or I'll just use a sterilizer. If sterilizer is making noise, or it fell to Bowie Dick, you don't throw away the sterilizer. You don't get a brand new one. You troubleshoot and you start doing different kind of concepts. And that's really where I think people need to go. And I mean, I'll give another real world examples. People want to understand more about standards, and people go, I got ST79. Great, that's great. That's a start. But you can't, ST79 is a monster by itself. And you got to take it in chunks. You got to take it. What do you want to learn? What do you see as that area of opportunity or that area that bothers you the most? And it's really hone in on that piece and build your subject matter knowledge experts around you. So again, through your local chapters, through great shows like Knowledge and Nonsense and PRETREAT CSS, and the many of them that are out there, they will give you some of those tips and tools around those little specifics that you've been needing. Don't try to conquer world war and peace and world peace in one day. Try to find out that little niche and go, okay, that's what I'm going to be really good at. And I call it, someone taught me this years ago, make it a inch wide, but a mile deep. And whatever you're going to learn, don't go try to make a mile wide and inch deep. That won't last. So find something you want to learn. And I'll give you a great example, which is so relevant nowadays, is PPE.
Yes.
Everybody thinks they know how to PPE. I literally was in the hospital this week. I've been visiting hospitals all week in the state of Colorado. And someone literally came and goes, Damien, how do I put on PPE? Or how's Isham tell me to put on PPE? And I said, well, great question. Where's your book? Let's dig into it. Instead of it coming from Damien, I'm going to open up the stuff, and we're going to go through it step by step with you. I'm going to make sure that learning experience is an inch wide and a mile deep. You're not going to say, Damien told me to do it like this. You're going to say, I looked it up in the book, and here's all the steps. And that's reproducible knowledge.
And I think it's great how you're using hard skills, because hard skills and technical techniques are very easy to create quality management systems for. They are the nuts and bolts, because if you don't do A, B, C, you won't fix your autoclave that's making noise. You won't learn how to don and doff PPEs. So when you can take that same initiative to build out the strategy of your soft skill development, or even planning out the objectives for your own professional development, that's where that tangibility comes in. So not just these moving the needles, but hope is great, right? We can agree hope is great. Yeah, like I like the Blue Lanterns. They run on hope. I am a comic book nerd. I digress. Hope is wonderful. Hope makes the vision, but hope isn't a strategy, right?
Hope is not a strategy. And I had a mentor of mine beat that in my head. If I ever said, well, I hope this works, he would literally say that and just stare me down and not say another word until I had to blink and change my thought process.
And
so,
it's so true. And it can literally happen in a blink.
Right.
That's all it takes, is that moment to build out that, no, I'm going to hope it happens, but let me actually make sure it happens with planning.
So here's a great example. How many of us out there, you watching all this, says, you're driving into work, you're parking in your parking lot, you're getting your badge if you can find it, you're getting all your stuff ready, you're going to leave your car walking into the employee entrance of the hospital, and you go, I hope I have a good day today. I hope it's a good surgery day. It's good to say, I'm going to go in with a positive attitude and I'm going to do that, but you can't impact that day by hoping. What you need to do is learn. And what I always do is, when we start a new day off, how did yesterday go? What happened yesterday? Did we have any misses yesterday? Did we have any complaints from the surgeons or from the OR? Did we have any complaints from our own staff members? Did we have any shortages? What happened yesterday? Because then if we're looking at it, okay, now how can I prevent that today? So Dr. Smith was not happy with us because we didn't have XYZ on his case. Well, was it on the pref card? I'm not hoping it's on the pref card. I'm going to go look and make sure it's on the pref card. Then I'm going to go up to the room when Dr. Smith's there, and I'm going to say, Dr. Smith, you didn't have this yesterday. We checked on it. You have everything here today. Are you good? And he's like, yeah, Damien, I'm good. Thanks for checking in on me. And then guess what? I don't worry about Dr. Smith anymore that day. So I didn't hope that Dr. Smith had a good day. I confirmed that we did. And it's those little simple tactics when you had a flop of not being ready for a case for whatever reason, but you learn from it and you follow up and you keep doing it. And I call them docs to watch. So those are my favorite thing. I go, docs to watch. If I have a doc that we missed, and I'm not saying, we know there's a lot of things that are perceived as we missing and we're not. But if we had a miss, let's own it, let's adjust, and let's follow up.
Yeah, definitely. So I call them keepers. So I think docs to watch is a little bit more snazzy, but I call them keepers. But I'm glad that that seems cross industry as a subject that we all look at. But imagine if we treated our goals after a professional flop like a doc to watch. What if we took that time to check in on our objectives and see how we're moving the needle to your explanation? Imagine the impact that would happen if we momentarily checked in with where we were going and not just hoping we were right in the right direction. I think there's a lot to be said in that space where we afford a certain luxury to the sterile processing industry that we can apply to ourselves. But first, you got to realize that you're stubborn and you have to make professional flops, right?
And you got to own it. And that's the big thing.
Right.
You got to own it. And one of the techniques that I still do today, and I don't do it as much because of my change in roles, is at the end of the day, I sit down and whether it's in my car or in my office or wherever I do, and I just do a mental back check. I said, okay, what were my goals today? What was my hope for today? What was that? And what did I miss? Did I have the right conversations? Did I not hit the mark on this? Did we not do this? And I just kind of mentally do an inventory. And I'm not, it just takes 1 minute. It's 1 minute of my day to do a check out. I do a check-in in the morning and I do a check out at the evening. And I go, okay, here's how my day went. And then I write that down. And I literally the next day I come and go, oh, that's a goal. That's a goal is not to have whatever it might be. It's amazing. And then that's where I develop my sticky notes from. And that's where I develop my strategic planning. I'm working off a preset strategic plan for mission, but it's so relative to our personal life because there's so many things now we can learn from.
I mean, and I think so much too, because we are personally invested in our professional development within the industry. So I almost feel like I'm moving more and more correctly, dare I say, or more and more in resonation with my why when what I'm doing is resonating with what I'm putting out professionally. So I think there's a lot to be said that when you check into what you're doing and you can see that your goals are actually showing up in your professional presentation, you should check that out and really appreciate that. Yeah.
And the key is show other people. We in sterile processing, and I'll say this with a grain of salt, we are not our best advertisers and marketers and cheerleaders. We need to tell people our story, what we do in our department, what we do outside of our department. Don't just say, get outside of the red line. The red line is not a magic red line. Get out there, go to meetings that you typically wouldn't go to and talk about what your goals are of your department and yourself. And people are inherently curious about different things. But we as a sterile process profession and we as ISHM have ways to go on that, and that's what we're going to do. We're going to tell our story. I'm already telling the story, folks. I'm out there.
Yes.
I mean, it's amazing the reception that I'm getting from different industry leaders inside and outside of hospitals about, oh my God, you guys are important. Let's work with you. And it works, but you've got to tell your story, and you got to have goals, and you got to have evidence. You can't just sit there and go, I'm sterile processing, I'm best. Oh, that's good that you are, but it's got to be more. You got to have something tangible because you're dealing with people that want to be able to see something. And again, then you can track it and trace it and see if it works and see if it doesn't work and adjust accordingly, because you could be thinking you're on target the entire time and you're completely off.
Yeah, definitely. And so even more so, just making sure that we're checking in to check out where we're progressing to. And we're going to take a short break to check out this promotion from some of our sponsors tonight. We'll be right back. All right, guys, thanks for checking out a word from our sponsors for tonight's show. As we round the corner, I can't believe I always get so shocked at how fast a half hour goes by, but it does really, it goes by so quick. And so I hope that there was a lot of actionable content this evening for everyone. I feel like I'm a writer while people talk too. So I've been writing things down so that I can remember to act on them. And now we've discussed the flop. We've definitely discussed different ways to pivot from such a raw emotional moment and self-recognition. So, Damien, what are you doing since that flop? How are you applying the lessons learned into your current application? What do you got going on?
Well, it drove, like I said, I think it embedded with me a passion and an ability to just never give up. And one of my goals in life is when I meet people that I see, and we've seen those people, and this is where I don't like. This is the tough part about my job. And I've seen it even this week when I've gone to visit places and I see someone feeling defeated. And when I say I see them feeling defeated, I can tell. You can tell. And then I focus on them. I kind of go to them and say, hey, how's it going? What's going on? So I gravitate to the people that are not having that good day, that are having that flop, and basically just go, hey, what's good for you? Everybody has ups and downs and bad days, but if you're living in a constant bad state, we gotta lift you up. And that's what drives me today, because I actually love to do that. I look for those challenges. I look for those people that need a little lifting up. I still am amazed that people say, Damien, I saw you at a conference 5 years ago and you shook your hand and said thanks, and that made my day. And I'm like, I don't, okay. I mean, I'm so amazed by it. It's amazing, but it's like, oh my God, that has that power of impact. So I'm just taking that situation and saying that created a drive and a passion that I don't want anybody to ever feel like that. And if they do feel like that, I want to be there for them to help them through that. And that's what I'm applying to my life, but I'm applying to my job. Because honestly, sterile processing can feel that way too, right? As an industry, sometimes we can feel that way. We can feel down on ourselves and down on our industry. And I'm like, no, sir, pick yourself up. And this is how you do it. These are the steps that we're going to help you get there. You don't have to wait for someone to help you, but you can be there to help someone else.
I agree. And I think it's really, it works both ways. It's important to make sure that you have the support to continuously not just feel like that, but actively be able to see that how you're feeling is matching what you're putting out. That support is absolutely necessary, whether that's through professional membership, or that's through mentorship, or that's through the colleagues that you work with. Having that support system to not just lift you up, but show you why you shouldn't have been down in the first place is absolutely vital to sound foundations. And then the ability to see it in self is something that I think that a lot of individuals specific to sterile processing struggle with. It's like, I need them to know that you're all that in a bag of indicators. All right. Class 5, if I'm being more specific, but I digress. You are that amazing. And from somebody that suffers personally from imposter syndrome, where I don't think I could possibly be doing the things that I'm doing, I know that it's not just a give and take, but I need both aspects to help lift me literally from the bottom up. So I think it's amazing that there's this front end aspects of that in a lot of your professional flop that leads you to where you are now. That's amazing. That's great.
Well, and I've had all the simple flops. I mean, I've dropped screw caddies from manual maxillofacial trays, and thousands of little tiny screws are all over. I wanted to just walk out. I've actually walked around my department while I was working at my table, and I didn't realize my scrub pants fell down. So I'm standing there for, I don't know how long in my underwear. So I've had all those flops too. So everybody has those human flops and human stories. So I kind of wanted to start with a serious one, and I wanted to end with, I don't want you picturing me standing at a table with my scrubs around my ankles, but it happened to me, and it happens to everybody. We're humans.
Well, I think as long as we don't get caught with our pants down when we're in our professional development, we'll be all right, right, Damien?
Yeah, I can see, as I said that story, I can see that coming back to haunt me later on just by saying that. So
listen, I want to thank you again, Damien, for joining us tonight on CS Stories on the Knowledge and Nonsense Network. This is great, and I couldn't think of a better candidate during Sterile Processing Week. And I really appreciate all the front end work you're doing and the very intimate insight of your professional flop. So again, thank you so much.
No, it's my pleasure. And again, on behalf of Isham National, Happy Sterile Processing Week. And by the way, we're only a few months away from HSPA, Healthcare Sterile Processing Association. That's our new name, 1 January 22. And I'm going to be so proud to be out and about with that once we get that going.
I cannot wait. My birthday's in January, so my CSS nerd is going to think it's for me. I'm not going to lie. But anyways, all right, guys, thank you again for joining us tonight. So on our next installment in 2 weeks, we're actually going to be welcoming Nazir Evan. He runs the platform Central Sterile Profit. And if you want to talk about someone who's dedicated to initiative in the same way Damien is from a different point of view, Nazir is it. So I'm looking forward to seeing everybody in 2 weeks. Same channel, 7 p.m. You're the real MVPs. Bye.
Bye, everybody.